Hi, this is Ron Turner of Frontrunner 2020. Thank you for joining episode 3 of our series. Before we start the program, let me say a few words about our purpose. We launched the Frontrunner 2020 series to support and encourage those on the journey towards elected office. We aim to present relevant programming for those aspiring to run, so you can lay the groundwork and be prepared. In addition, some of our presentations are focused on strategies and tactics for use during your campaign. Our guests are the best in their field, and in some specialties, this means going outside of politics to the business community. You'll see that we emphasize marketing and building your brand as a core strategic component. There are many things you can do before you announce your candidacy that will enhance your potential and eliminate roadblocks that may get in your way. Finally, we recognize this path as a matter of personal growth and, yes, a calling. Please tell us what you need to be more successful, and we'll plan future programs around your feedback. Scott Garrison has been professionally involved in issue and electoral campaigns for 18 years, most of that time in fundraising and data analysis. His firm, Garrison Political Strategy, works with political campaigns and public interest organizations to build and grow their audience and measure engagement with that audience. He also works with Eagle & Wheeler, a new media and print advertising firm, providing similar advice to commercial clients. Scott, are you ready?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Ron. Thanks for having me tonight. And thank you to the audience for joining us. I want to talk tonight about how politics and how political fundraising can be made simple. Folks often approach political fundraising with some trepidation. It's not the most fun thing in the world to do, but I'd like to make the case tonight that it is a simple process. So what I want to talk to you about tonight is 6 basic steps for fundraising. The first step is to get organized. The second step is to plan to hit your budget. The third step is to ask for money. You can't get far without actually making the solicitations happen. And the fourth step is to repeat. The fifth step is to measure, and the sixth step is to say thank you. Fundamentally, when it comes down to it, fundraising is about relationships. Focusing on relationships, planning, and measuring are the keys to success. So let me talk a little bit more about the first step of getting organized. Obviously, part of getting organized is getting your environment right, making sure you have all the collateral material you're going to need to communicate with potential donors. After you've spoken to them, people want a little bit more information. And you also need to know the law. You've got to know the law in your jurisdiction, and this varies so widely that we can't talk in detail about that in this webinar, but I'd be glad to help people find their way to find the right kind of advice they need if that's a subject folks would like to talk about. But most importantly, you need to know the law before you get started. But the next step after that is to start gathering your contacts and lists. You don't have to actually be a candidate already to start organizing who you know and who you need to know. This is a good step to go ahead and dive into if you're just thinking about running. Go ahead and taking the time now to organize those parts of your life so that when you decide to get in, when you actually do get into a race, you can be well ready to hit the ground running. Well, actually, we have a question about this, Ron, a poll that I'd like to ask the audience about.
Okay, sure. How do you organize your personal and professional contacts? Are they in electronic form like Outlook, Google, or maybe your cell phone? Do you have them in a shoebox or a drawer, in paper, business cards, and so on? Do you have an address book? Maybe a combination or all of the above? Go ahead and mark that. And let me repeat the question, give you one more minute. How do you organize your personal and professional contacts?
Yeah, that's as I expected. If you're like most normal people, your contacts are spread out over a couple different places. I'm surprised that no one really keeps that shoebox full of business cards as much anymore, but that's probably because a lot of people just gather and accumulate contacts on their cell phone. And that is sometimes the hardest place when you start working with a new candidate, to gather information out of something as personal as their own personal cell phone. Once you gather your contacts, it's time to start organizing them, and organizing them according to how well you know them or how close they are to you. And we start with a series of concentric circles. The candidates at the center of this. The first circle, the closest people we work first are family and friends, people you know really well. The next round of people that you want to start reaching out to for fundraising are acquaintances, people you kind of know. And by the way, if you're a potential candidate, if you're considering running, it's never too early to start making sure that you stay in touch with your acquaintances, with those people you kind of know. There's really nothing more awkward than calling that distant cousin up and telling them you're running for office and you could use some support, and you haven't talked to them in a few years,
Mm-hmm.
Or that old buddy for college that you kept meaning to keep in touch with, and he sent you holiday cards every year. Beyond acquaintances and people we kind of know are stakeholders, power brokers, or maybe even in that loose category of people, those folks who have money and like to perceive themselves as being part of a group of stakeholders and power brokers, the players, sort of. After that, we start working people who are ideologically similar, making the case to them about support, and then finally those who might be opposed to your opponent. Someone with an axe to grind. The enemy of your enemy is your friend, kind of thing. You want to organize your contacts. You want to start organizing them and sorting them according to these kinds of groupings. And this is the priority order, the rough priority you want to work with them. So this is a key task to engage before you start.
And this is our homework assignment. The people who have been at our earlier episodes know that we emphasize action, and these are the points that Scott has listed as a call to action for you. Here's what you do with this information.
Now, if you're going to fundraise, if you're going to run for office, you can't just approach fundraising as a strategy of trying to rush to pile up money as quick as you can. That's often how people do it. They dive in, they just start fundraising, they go as hard as they can, and they think, well, we'll see how much we can raise and then we'll figure out how we're going to do it. Well, this is not a real safe approach. When you do that route, you often find yourself late in the campaign, time to pay for voter contact and no way to do it. You need to plan ahead. You need to write a budget to start with, and you need to plan to hit that budget. So planning to hit your budget starts with number one, writing a budget, and the second part is targeting. Now, targeting is the process of going through systematically, one by one, through those contacts you've organized, through those lists you've gathered, and as the candidate, and this is an important step for the candidate to go through and assign a specific monetary expectation of how much you want to ask every prospective donor for. And that's an important step. Okay, well actually, let me talk a little bit more about targeting. Targeting is an important step, and it's important for three key reasons. And it's important that the candidate do it. It's important the candidate do it because this is the candidate's opportunity to commit to soliciting money from that particular person, so that you don't have to start going through a list of people and trying to contact and deciding whether or not you want to solicit from them at the same time. You plan ahead, plan your solicitation pattern ahead, and have the candidate make a commitment to that person. The second reason it's important is because it helps you order and prioritize calls. You call people you've targeted for $1,000 before you call someone you've targeted for $125. You do that, number one, because that's how you get your early seed money in, and number two, you do it because, well, generally it takes someone a little more time to put together $1,000 than $125. They need to plan that budget in their own. They need to plan for that in their own budget. And then finally, we target because it's an important tool for coming up with cash flow projections. All right. So the third step in planning to hit your budget is to set goals. You need to work backwards from a budget and then peg goals to external strategic milestones or cash flow needs. So you work backwards from the budget and from when you're going to need to actually pay out expenses, and you work backwards to make sure that you're going to have the cash flow to meet that. Now I think we've got another question here, don't we, Ron?
Yes, we do. How much of pledged money do you expect that campaigns collect? 100%, 80%, 60%, or 40%? How much of pledged money do you expect that campaigns collect? 100%, 80%, 60%, or 40%?
That's good. We have some very, very serious realists in the audience tonight. Generally speaking, campaigns collect between 40 and 60%. And 60%, it takes some work to get to. You can get to 60% with good follow-up, and email follow-up directly after completing a call, making sure people have a link to give on the website. And generally speaking, when you're planning to hit your budget, you want to adopt a relatively conservative approach. You want to adopt an approach of discounting your targets to pledges and your pledges to deposits. In other words, while we might get a pledge from someone for $1,000, on aggregate, as we accumulate pledges from people, those pledges collected about a 60% rate. But we also have a discounting on targets. While we might sit down and assign a dollar amount to every single potential donor that we want to call and ask for money from, we find that when we actually get on the phone with those potential donors, those targets, those prospective donors, that they actually don't pledge anywhere near the rate we'd hoped they had in our expectations. And so it's a healthy, conservative approach is to estimate that those targets are going to convert to pledges at about 1/3. You put those together and you come up with a rough rule of thumb to project cash flow based on targets of about 1/5 or 20%. What that means is if you need to raise $20,000, you're going to need $100,000 in targets to get there, to be able to plan to get there.
Wow. Okay. I don't know if that's what people expected. I saw from the questionnaire some people maybe saw that coming, but that's a big reality check. Are we ready for the homework assignment, Scott?
Yes, definitely. So, you need to start planning your budget early in the campaign and planning how your cash flow is going to get you to that budget.
One of these points, the bad first drafts are good starts. That's kind of a lesson that I've learned in general. Don't procrastinate. Do something. This is one of those cases where it's not going to be perfect. You can't predict the future, but make an effort.
Yeah, your budget is going to be a growing and evolving document over the course of the campaign, but you need to start with a plan. Revise that plan as you go forward.